The Johnsky is a YouTube channel run by and run for people over the age of 13. People under the age of 13 should click off of this video right now, or watch with a parent or guardian. Viewer discretion is advised.
You don't scare me!
Mills is freaking today, militiamen. My name is King Prime, and welcome back to another video here on the YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the brand new Star Wars The Vintage Collection action figures. That being the Star Wars The Vintage Collection The Mandalorian Luke Skywalker from the Imperial Light Cruiser. Now, what a better way to start off the new season of The Mandalorian, which aired last night, than with the last episode of The Mandalorian that we got all the way back in December of 2020. Wow, it's been, Jesus, it's way too long. Anyway, though, as we always do, let's take a quick look at the packaging. Right at the top of the card here, we do have the Mandalorian trades done in that nice crimson cherry red, as well as Luke Skywalker Imperial Light Cruiser done up in orange, nice dark orange for the backdrop of the figure's bubble. There is a screenshot from the show of deepfake Luke on the deepfake Luke's real body. A counter trade at the bottom. On the back of the card, we do have the other figures that have been released recently in the line, such as the Dark Times Vader, who I've reviewed, Kenobi, who I've reviewed, the Klatooinian Raider, who I don't give a shit about, Luke, who obviously I'm reviewing right now, Vel, who I will get at some point, same with the Artillery Stormtrooper and Cassian, and our previous review, Cal Kestis from Jedi Survivor. On the bottom, we have some legal jargon, and that's about it. I say it in every single video. You only really care about the packaging if you're a carded collector, of which I'm not. I'm here to open toys and review them, and that is what I'm going to do. Freeze frame.
Yippee! Wahoo! Yee!
Freeze frame on freeze, and here is Luke Skywalker out of the packaging. But before we take a look at Luke, let's take a look at all his accessories. So, first of all, most simply, of course, we do have a DL-18 pistol, the same one that Luke used to threaten Jabba in the opening of Return of the Jedi. I am not quite sure why he comes with this, considering Luke himself does not have a single holster on his body or peg for anything that isn't his lightsaber, but he can hold it in his trigger finger hand, which is his right hand, his gloved hand. And he can hold it pretty well, and that's it. However, I don't have any use for this. This is not, to me, a Return of the Jedi Luke. This is a Mandalorian or just otherwise expanded universe Luke. And that Luke never used this pistol after Return of the Jedi, as far as I'm aware. Maybe it's been a little bit too long since I've read the Thrawn trilogy. Not quite sure. Can't remember, but it is a nicely detailed pistol. It has some nice silver accents, as well as a brownish bronze for the grip. And that's about it. I don't care for this accessory. It's just nice that it was included. Also included is my favorite accessory, the unextended lightsaber hilt. I am a very big fan of when Jedi figures include this. I think that every single Jedi figure that is produced in the Vintage Collection line should have an unextended hilt, just as a display option. It is picked out in a very nice silver and bronze there, for that little tiny greebly detail near the emitter, and that black grip for the center of the saber. It, of course, does have a peg on the end of it, so you can plug it into Luke's belt. So you can pretend that it's hooked on there, and it does go in and stay pretty well. It is, of course, as you've seen me moving around, a very soft plastic, but it does work very well for the illusion of it being clipped onto his belt. And I love this accessory. I love when those things are included. And what would an unextended hilt be without the extended blade, the full lightsaber, and that nice light green color that is very, very, now that I think about it, not really that potent or that opaque. It's much more transparent than any other lightsaber that I've seen. Just for comparison, here's the 2015 Black Series 3 3/4 inch Luke's lightsaber, and it is much deeper, milkier, more opaque shade of green, but it's fine. The blade, of course, I said in my Cal review as well, It's the exact same size as the unextended hilt. I don't think Hasbro would be that stupid to mess that up. But it is at least a tiny bit different, I guess you could say. But overall, the proportions are exactly the same. And of course, Luke can hold that weapon in the exact same hand as in the blaster, or in his left hand as well. And that is very nice. For his final accessory, Luke does actually come with a cloak, which is reminiscent of the final scene of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 8, the final episode of that season, in which Luke Skywalker, of course, came to the rescue of everybody aboard Moff Gideon's cruiser, and consequently made hundreds of Star Wars fans jizz buckets. Of course, Luke can wear his cloak. You're just going to want to remove his head first, which is gross. But once you do that, you can just slide Luke's neck through the peg hole, peel the hood back, and replace Luke's head, and then just pose that hood over his head. And there you go. Luke's wearing a cape now. And this is a very reminiscent cape of both the show and the original 1983 figure for Luke, the Return of the Jedi one. But it's overall not all that bad. My complaints with this figure are mainly about the figure itself. Personally, I could do with or without this cape, and I know it does look a little bit purple-ish under this light, but I promise it's just because of the kind of light that I'm using. It's not an LED, it's a original kind of light bulb, and so it's making it look a little bit weird on camera, but I promise it's not purple, it's black. Otherwise, that would be very strange. Finally, moving on to Luke, however, and let's just get his cape off of him, or his cloak, I should say. Luke he's alright, let's just say. The appearance of this figure is pretty okay. Getting in on that face sculpt, it kind of looks like Mark Hamill from some angles, but at the same time, kind of not. And I think this mostly has to do with the photoreal printing that they use on the face sculpt of this figure and other figures like it. It's not uncanny. It's kind of there from certain angles, like looking up from the bottom, it definitely looks like Mark, but then straight on, it's a maybe at best. I think the sculpting on this head sculpt is really nice, but the print work, it's just kind of spotty on my copy. Maybe other people have better luck, but for me at least, it's not the greatest. So, buyer beware, of course. Moving down a little bit, though, we can see that Luke's actually wearing the same exact tunic that he was wearing on his Death Star duel, with the breasted chest piece, as well as his Jedi robes over that garment, which is accentuated by a soft goods cloth cape piece, or at least a waist cape piece that's very short, but it is there in a nice butt flap. The sculpted details, especially the wrinkles around the arms and the tunic, are very nice as well. His legs have the same kind of detailing on them, and he has nice shiny black knee-high boots, which do look very intimidating, even on a good guy such as Luke. As for the articulation, though, as you might have seen while I was looking at the cloak, he does have an oddity, which is a single-point ball joint at his neck, which is not something we're used to. We're used to dumbbell joints at this point, and Luke having a single point of articulation at the head is very strange. I'm not totally opposed to it, but it is weird because it's been actual years since I've seen a figure released with that. A lot more than that, a new figure, because I do believe a lot of this figure is a new mold. I've never seen a figure like this released with that old kind of ball joint. He does, of course, have a hinge at the shoulder, which can go out and all the way around, as well as a pretty good hinge at the elbow, although it's slightly above 90 degrees of articulation, and a swivel at the wrist, as well as an up and down joint at his left hand, and a similar up and down at his right, which is pretty good for Jedi characters since they're supposed to be pointing lightsabers at people and all that stuff. So I think that that's okay in this case. He does have a ball joint at his waist, although it's more of a diaphragm kind of deal here. But as you can see, it moves around kind of like that. There is also articulation at the waist proper, or at least No articulation from that long ball joint into his chest, but you can kind of get a wiggle here at the hips. As for his actual hips, there's something that I don't like in mind the angle here. For whatever reason, this figure was sculpted with these abominable hinge joint hips. These 2-point swivel and hinge hips, which I absolutely despise. I hate them on every single figure. I have no idea why Cal Kestis, our previous review, has ball jointed hips while Luke here has the hinge ones. I despise these things. I thought we were rid of them, but unfortunately we're not. I was wrong. And that's very disappointing, at least in my eyes. He does, of course, have an upper thigh cut, which is very tight, as if you can hear the squeaking. Like that. As well as a bend at the knee, which can go just above 90 degrees. A ankle pivot, which is good. And a ankle hinge. Go forward and back with his foot. That's it for articulation for Luke, however. It's pretty standard, but also at the same time substandard, and I'm not going to lie, it kind of bugs me. But I'll talk more about that a little bit later. Why don't we get onto a size comparison? I can show you how Luke stacks up to some other figures. Freeze frame.
This isn't a meme.
Here is Luke Skywalker next to Din Djarin. Here he is next to our previous review, the Jedi Survivor, Cal Kestis. And I'm putting Cal over here. As you can see, even with a actual proper display stand, Cal still stands just a hair taller than Luke. Here he is next to a custom Mandalorian figure, which I created of my own design. And here is Luke next to Daddy-O, the golden standard of action figures himself, the Dark Times Darth Vader, who, as he should, and even though he is on the display stand, tower over everyone, which is something I do love to see. Also, for comparison, and something I have just recently discovered, the 2015 3 3/4 inch Black Series Luke Skywalker, which is previously my definitive Luke, actually reuses that same exact torso from this figure for the new one. And that, my friends, kind of pisses me off. I do not like to see that. I like to see new parts, and having this reuse of parts between these two Lukes does make me a little bit angry. And in case you were wondering, they are the same height, even on the display stand. So there's that. Very disappointing to me. I thought that this Luke would be just a little bit better than the previous one, but that's not quite the case. Let me elaborate more about that in my final thoughts segment, Freeze Frame.
Do it.
Freeze frame on freeze. It is no doubt to me that this Luke Skywalker figure could have been the best ever released, but Hasbro fumbled the bag really hard with this one. I can understand reusing parts. Cost effectiveness is a big thing in today's toy industry, and if there is a piece that could be used in a new figure which has been used before on an old one, it's not that bad to reuse it. However, it doesn't take much to retool something, especially something as simple as a ball joint, or as simple as legs, which we got on another figure, another excellent figure, I should say, in this wave even. It's really frustrating to me because I wanted this figure to be so much more than what it is. Luke Skywalker is my favorite Star Wars character of all time, and this feels like a cop-out. Yes, the sculpting and the painting is pretty good, I must admit. Even the face, for as many faults as I can find in it, is probably the best Luke Skywalker head sculpt we've ever gotten in the Vintage Collection line or in 1/18th scale. This, The Mandalorian Luke, really falls short of the expectations I had had for it. There's no excuse why it doesn't have ball-jointed hips. There's no excuse why it doesn't have a retooled neck. There's no excuse for Hasbro, even though the articulation is okay. The sculpting and painting is admittedly pretty good. By objective means, this figure to me is a disappointment, and I can't recommend it to someone as a super fan of Luke. It just falls short of my expectations. But if what I have said here today does not sway you, and you still really want this figure, or like this figure, or Star Wars in general, or The Mandalorian, make sure you share this video with all your friends, share it with your Facebook groups, all that good stuff. If you like content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below. Keeps helping me make these videos, keeps helping the channel grow. That's going to be pretty much it for this video, my friends. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, peace.